Have you ever wondered what truly separates humans from monkeys? Most people think the answer is simple. They say it's language, or intelligence, or civilization. But what if none of those are the real answer? What if the line between us and them is far thinner than we ever imagined? Deep inside the forests of Africa, Asia, and South America, millions of monkeys wake up every morning to lives filled with friendships, rivalries, family, sacrifice, strategy, fear, curiosity, and even grief. They form lifelong bonds. They recognize faces they haven't seen in years. They remember acts of kindness. They teach their young. They solve problems. Some use tools. Some deceive others to gain food. Some comfort their friends after tragedy. Some even appear to understand fairness and become angry when they are treated unfairly. The more scientists study monkeys, the more uncomfortable one question becomes: are we really as different as we think? For centuries, humans believed we stood completely apart from every other animal. But modern science tells a very different story. Our DNA, our emotions, our social lives. Even many of our fears and instincts have surprisingly deep roots that stretch back millions of years. Every smile, every argument, every hug, every moment of curiosity, they may have begun long before humans ever existed. This is not just the story of monkeys. It is the story of where we came from. The story of intelligence before civilization, of families before cities, of survival before history, and perhaps the story of ourselves. Today, we enter the hidden world of Earth's closest relatives to discover what truly makes monkeys different and why understanding them may be the key to understanding humanity itself. Well, what if everything you believe about monkeys is incomplete? Have you ever wondered why monkeys laugh, cry, hug, fight, and protect one another? Why do they build lifelong friendships if survival is all that matters? Can an animal miss someone after they die? Can a monkey feel jealousy? Can it recognize unfairness? Can it hold a grudge for years? Can it forgive? Why do some monkeys risk their own lives to save another member of the group? Who taught them to use tools if no human was there to teach them? Why do some monkey families have traditions that neighboring groups have never learned? Can they pass knowledge from one generation to the next, just like we do? Do baby monkeys go through something that looks surprisingly similar to childhood? Why do scientists keep discovering behaviors in monkeys that seem almost human? If they cannot speak our language, how do they settle arguments? How do they warn each other about danger? How do they decide who becomes the leader? Do they have politics? Do they have friendships that last a lifetime? Do they have enemies they never forget? And perhaps the biggest question of all, if monkeys are capable of so many things we once believed belonged only to humans, then what really makes us different? Long before the first cities rose from the earth, long before written language, long before kings, wars, and civilizations, the forests already belonged to another kind of society, not built from stone, not protected by walls, but held together by trust, memory, intelligence, and family. Millions of years ago, the ancestors of today's monkeys began adapting to a world that was constantly changing. Dense tropical forests covered enormous parts of the earth. Life was dangerous. Gigantic snakes hunted from the branches. Huge birds of prey watched from above. Powerful cats waited silently below. For a small animal, every single day could be its last. Strength alone could not guarantee survival. Speed was not enough. Sharp teeth were not enough. Something else was evolving, something that would eventually change the history of life on Earth forever. The brain. Unlike many other mammals, early primates began relying less on raw power and more on observation. Instead of attacking first, they watch. Instead of fighting every battle, they calculate. Every movement through the trees required precise decisions. A single mistake meant falling from heights that could easily be fatal. This constant challenge slowly transformed their bodies. Their hands became capable of gripping branches with incredible precision. Their eyes shifted forward, allowing them to judge distance with remarkable accuracy. Their brains grew larger to process an increasingly complex world. But perhaps their greatest evolutionary advantage was not physical at all. It was social. No monkey survives alone for very long. From the very beginning, survival depended on the group. Every member had a role. Some searched for food, some watched for predators, some cared for infants, others defended the troop. before the first rays of sunlight reach the forest floor. What is happening high above the trees? Do monkeys sleep peacefully through the night? Or do they spend every hour listening for predators? Who wakes up first? How does the rest of the group know it's time to move? Who decides where everyone will go? Is there really a leader? Or is every decision made in a completely different way? When hundreds of monkeys begin searching for food, how do they avoid chaos? Do they share what they find, or does every monkey fight for itself? How does a mother know which baby is hers among dozens that look almost identical? How do young monkeys learn what is safe to eat without poisoning themselves? Can one wrong decision put the entire group in danger? How do monkeys communicate without saying a single human word? Can one simple sound mean food is nearby, while another means run for your life? Do different monkey species actually have different languages? Can they recognize each other's voices from hundreds of meters away? Why do some monkeys spend hours grooming one another? Is it only about removing insects? Or is something much deeper happening? Can a friendship become stronger through a simple touch? And when the sun begins to disappear, how do they know where it is safe to sleep? Who stays alert while the others rest? What dangers are waiting in the darkness? Long before the next sunrise, to understand monkeys, we first have to follow them through an ordinary day, because what seems ordinary at first glance may reveal one of nature's most extraordinary societies. 5 critical questions that could change everything. But before we go any deeper, there are 5 questions that scientists have spent decades trying to answer, and each one brings us closer to understanding not only monkeys, but ourselves. Question 1. Can a monkey recognize itself, or does it believe the reflection in the water is another animal? If an animal knows who it is, what does that say about its mind? Question 2. Can monkeys plan for tomorrow, or do they live only in the present? Do they think ahead before taking a risk? Can they prepare for a problem that hasn't happened yet? Question 3. Can a monkey lie, not by making sounds, but by intentionally deceiving another monkey to gain food, power, or safety? If deception exists, does that mean strategy exists too? Question 4. Can monkeys understand death? When one member of the group dies, why do some mothers continue carrying their babies for days? Why do others remain unusually quiet? Is it instinct, or something much deeper that science is only beginning to understand? And finally, the most important question of all, if monkeys can love, learn, teach, cooperate, remember, plan, deceive, and even mourn, if there are no written laws, who keeps order inside a monkey society? Why doesn't the strongest monkey simply take everything at once? Who decides who eats first? Who settles conflicts before they become deadly? Can one wrong decision destroy an entire group? What happens when a young monkey refuses to obey? Do the older monkeys punish it or teach it? How does a monkey earn respect? Through strength, through intelligence, or through something far more unexpected? Why do some monkeys become leaders, while others spend their entire lives following? Can a leader lose the trust of the group? And if that happens, who replaces it? Do monkeys ever overthrow their own leaders? Can families become rivals? Can friendships turn into betrayals? What happens when food becomes scarce? Does cooperation survive? Or does survival turn friends into enemies? How do monkeys know whom they can trust? Can they remember a betrayal years later? Can one act of kindness create a lifelong alliance? Hundreds of invisible decisions are being made. Who belongs and who is left behind? The deeper scientists look into monkey societies, the more one surprising truth begins to emerge. This is not random behavior. It is a complex social world with rules, relationships, strategy, and consequences. And the more we discover, the harder it becomes to believe that these societies are so different from our own. Deep within the mist-covered mountains of Central Africa, where ancient forests have remained untouched for thousands of years, lives the largest primate on Earth, a creature so powerful that a single swing of its arm could break thick branches, a creature so massive that it can weigh more than 200 kilograms, a creature many people fear without ever understanding it, the gorilla. For generations, Movies portrayed gorillas as violent monsters, gigantic beasts driven by rage, creatures that attacked anything standing in their way. But nature tells a completely different story. The truth is, gorillas are among the most peaceful great apes on Earth. They rarely seek conflict. They avoid unnecessary violence. And above everything else, they value family. At the center of every gorilla family stands one remarkable individual, the silverback. His name comes from the wide patch of silver-colored hair that develops across his back as he reaches adulthood. But the silver fur is not simply a sign of age. It is a symbol of leadership, responsibility, experience, and trust. A mature silverback is much more than the strongest member of the group. He is its protector, its decision-maker, its guide. Every morning, the family waits for him. He chooses where they travel, where they feed, where they rest, which paths are safe, and which dangers must be avoided. His decisions determine whether the family survives. A typical gorilla group may include several adult females, their young, teenage gorillas, and one dominant silverback. Sometimes, more than 20 individuals live together. Each one knows its place. Each one understands the unwritten rules of the family. Unlike many predators, leadership among gorillas is not based solely on fear. It is earned. The silverback protects infants, settles conflicts, breaks up fights, comforts frightened members, and constantly watches the forest around him. Even while eating, he rarely stops paying attention. His family depends on him. Every sound matters. A branch snapping in the distance, the alarm call of a bird, the scent of another gorilla group. Everything is carefully observed, because danger can appear at any moment. Despite their incredible strength, gorillas have surprisingly few natural enemies. Adult males are so powerful that very few animals are willing to challenge them. Occasionally, a leopard may attempt to attack a young gorilla, but confronting an adult silverback is an enormous risk. Standing nearly 2 meters tall when upright, with arms capable of lifting incredible weight, the silverback commands respect throughout the forest. Yet, his greatest weapon is often not violence, it is communication. When danger approaches, the silverback performs one of nature's most famous displays. He rises onto his legs, expands his enormous chest, and begins beating it with cupped hands. The deep sound echoes through the rainforest, traveling hundreds of meters. To humans, it sounds terrifying. To other gorillas, it carries a clear message. This family is protected. Surprisingly, these displays often prevent fights. Instead of attacking immediately, silverbacks try to intimidate rivals. Both males assess each other's size, confidence, and determination. If one decides the risk is too great, he simply retreats, without bloodshed. For gorillas, avoiding unnecessary injury is often the smartest victory. Inside the family, life follows a peaceful rhythm. The group spends much of the day eating leaves, shoots, roots, fruit, bark, wild celery, and dozens of different plant species. An adult gorilla may consume over 30 kilograms of vegetation every single day. Because plants provide relatively little energy, gorillas must spend many hours feeding. Between meals, they groom one another, play, rest beneath giant trees, or simply observe the forest around them. Young gorillas rarely stay still. They chase each other, roll across the ground, climb fallen trees, swing from branches, and constantly test their growing strength. Their games are far more than entertainment. Every playful wrestling match teaches balance, coordination, social rules, and survival skills. Watching them, it becomes almost impossible not to notice something familiar. The laughter, the curiosity, the affection, the way older siblings care for younger ones, the protective embrace of a mother, the patient watchfulness of a father. So many moments seem remarkably human, perhaps because they are part of a much older story, a story shared by both gorillas and ourselves. But despite their peaceful lives, the gorilla kingdom is not free from conflict. Sometimes another silverback appears, a challenger, looking for a family of his own, and when two kings meet, the fight. In the world of gorillas, peace is precious, but peace does not last forever. Deep inside the rainforest, every silverback knows that one day another male will arrive, stronger, younger, hungrier, not searching for food, not searching for territory, searching for a family. Unlike many predators, gorillas do not fight over hunting grounds. They fight for leadership, for the chance to protect a group, for the opportunity to pass on their genes to the next generation. It is one of the oldest stories in nature. One king must eventually face another. Imagine the silence of the forest. The family is feeding peacefully. Young gorillas wrestle among the vines. Mothers quietly gather leaves. The silverback rests nearby, always watching. Then, something changes. A distant chest beat echoes through the trees. Once, twice. Again, the sound is deep, powerful, impossible to ignore. Every member of the family freezes. The babies climb onto their mothers. The females stop eating. The silverback slowly rises. He knows exactly what that sound means. Another dominant male is nearby, and he is announcing his presence. The challenger moves carefully through the forest. He is usually younger, often larger, sometimes alone for years, waiting for this moment, watching, learning, searching for the right opportunity. He doesn't attack immediately, like the resident silverback. He understands the cost of battle. Even the strongest gorilla can suffer life-threatening injuries. A broken arm, deep bite wounds, damaged muscles. Any serious injury can mean death in the wild. That is why the first battle often happens without physical contact. Both males stand tall. They stare into each other's eyes. Neither looks away. Their bodies become larger. Shoulders widen. Hair stands on end. Then comes another chest beat, louder than before. The sound rolls through the rainforest like thunder. Birds explode from the trees. Monkeys fall silent. Even the forest seems to pause. The two giants begin walking in circles, slowly, carefully. Every movement is calculated. Every step sends a message. I am stronger. I am not afraid. I will not surrender. Sometimes that is enough. The weaker male decides the risk is too great. He turns away. The battle ends without a single blow, but not always. Sometimes neither male retreats. The distance between them disappears. Suddenly, two enormous bodies collide. The sound echoes through the jungle. They grab, push, bite, roar. Branches snap beneath their weight. The ground shakes. Dust rises into the air. It looks violent, almost prehistoric. Yet even now, these battles are usually shorter than people imagine, because neither gorilla truly wants to kill the other. Victory is often decided by endurance, confidence, and experience. Eventually, one male begins to lose ground. His breathing becomes heavier, his movements slower. Then he steps backward, once, twice. Finally, he turns away. The new king has won. For the victorious silverback, everything changes. He now becomes responsible for the family, protecting them, leading them, making every decision that keeps them alive. But for the defeated male, the future is uncertain. Some leave forever. Others wander alone for years, searching for another opportunity, another family, another chance to become king. Nature can be harsh, but it is never without purpose. Only the strongest, the wisest, and the most patient leaders remain. Yet strength alone does not make a great silverback, because after every battle, after every victory, after every challenge, he must return to the role that truly defines him, not as a warrior, but as a father, a guardian, and the heart of an entire family. Because in the gorilla kingdom, the greatest measure of power is not how many battles you win, it is how many lives you protect. And nowhere is that truth more visible than in the extraordinary bond between a gorilla mother and her child. Long before a young gorilla learns how to climb, before it understands danger, before it can even walk, its entire world is one individual, its mother. The moment a baby gorilla is born, it is almost completely helpless. Weighing only around 2 kilograms, it cannot survive on its own. It cannot search for food. It cannot escape predators. It cannot even keep itself warm. Without its mother, its chances of survival are almost zero. For the first few months, the baby rarely leaves her body. It clings tightly to her chest, holding onto her thick black fur with tiny hands. Every movement she makes, the baby follows. Every step, every climb, every meal, every moment. She carries her infant through dense forests, across rivers, over fallen trees, and up steep mountain slopes, sometimes for years. Unlike many mammals, gorilla mothers invest an extraordinary amount of time in raising a single child. Pregnancy lasts about 8.5 months, almost identical to humans. But the real challenge begins after birth. A young gorilla may remain closely attached to its mother for 4, 5, or even 6 years. That is an enormous commitment. During that time, she teaches everything: which plants are safe to eat, which insects should be avoided, how to climb safely, how to communicate with the family, how to recognize danger, how to behave around the silverback. Every lesson is learned through observation. Unlike humans, gorillas do not explain with words. They teach by example. The baby watches, copies, repeats, and slowly begins to understand the world. One of the most beautiful moments in the rainforest is watching a young gorilla discover curiosity. At first, every leaf becomes a toy, every butterfly a mystery, every branch an adventure. The baby rolls through the grass, climbs onto fallen logs, pulls gently at vines. Sometimes, it even tries to imitate the adults, chewing leaves, beating its tiny chest, or pretending to be the mighty silverback. The adults often ignore these playful mistakes, almost as if they understand that learning requires freedom. Play is not simply entertainment, it is education. Through games, young gorillas develop balance, strength, confidence, social skills, and perhaps most importantly, they learn trust. But raising a baby is never easy. Every mother remains constantly alert. If another gorilla becomes too rough, she intervenes. If danger approaches, she immediately pulls her infant close. Sometimes, a simple glance is enough for the baby to understand. Stay close. Be quiet. Follow me. Researchers have observed something remarkable. Mother gorillas often display behaviors that seem deeply familiar to us. They kiss their babies, stroke their heads, gently cradle them after frightening experiences, comfort them when they cry, and patiently wait when they struggle to climb. These are not random actions. They strengthen emotional bonds, the same kind of bonds that exist in many human families. Even after the infant grows older, the connection remains strong. Young gorillas frequently return to their mothers for reassurance, after falling, after losing a game, or simply to feel safe. Scientists call this secure attachment. It is one of the foundations of healthy social development, and gorillas share it with us, perhaps more than we ever imagined. But mothers are not the only protectors. There is another figure whose quiet presence shapes every young gorilla's future: the silverback. Many people assume he exists only to fight, only to defend the family, but reality tells a different story. A baby gorilla often climbs onto the enormous back of the silverback, plays with his hands, pulls at his fur, even while he rests. And remarkably, this giant, who possesses the strength to overpower almost any animal in the forest, responds with extraordinary patience. He rarely shows aggression toward the young. Instead, he watches over them, protects them, and teaches them without ever speaking a single word. Because in the gorilla kingdom, the strongest leaders are not remembered for the battles they fought. They are remembered for the children they helped survive. And as those children grow, they begin to discover something extraordinary. They are not only learning from their parents, they are learning from every member of the family. Because a gorilla troop is far more than a group of individuals. It is a society, one built on trust, communication, and cooperation. If you were to spend just 1 hour inside a wild gorilla family, you might think very little is happening. They eat, rest, walk, groom each other, care for their young. Everything appears calm, almost silent. But that silence is an illusion, because gorillas are constantly communicating, not with words, but with a language that has been evolving for millions of years. Every glance, every movement, and every sound has meaning. To us, a gorilla may simply look in one direction. To another gorilla, that single look might mean, stay close, be careful, follow me, or danger. Unlike humans, gorillas don't rely on long conversations. They rely on body language, facial expressions, touch, posture, and dozens of different vocal sounds. Scientists have identified more than 25 distinct gorilla vocalizations. Each one serves a different purpose. A soft grunt while feeding tells the family everything is safe. A low rumble helps members stay together while moving through dense vegetation. Short barks warn of possible danger. High-pitched cries signal distress. And then there is one sound that every gorilla immediately understands: the chest beat. For humans, it may look like a display of aggression, but for gorillas, it is far more sophisticated. A silverback does not beat his chest simply because he is angry. He is sending information: his size, his confidence, his health, his willingness to defend his family. Recent scientific studies have even shown that every silverback's chest beat is unique. The deep resonance can reveal the animal's body size, allowing rivals to judge whether a fight is worth the risk. It is nature's version of an announcement, and often it prevents violence before it begins. But perhaps the most fascinating form of communication is touch. Watch a gorilla family closely, and you will notice something remarkable. They are constantly touching one another. A gentle hand placed on a shoulder, a mother pulling her baby closer, young gorillas embracing after playing, the silverback calmly resting beside his family. Touch builds trust, reduces stress, strengthens relationships, just as it does in humans. Then there are the eyes. Many animals avoid direct eye contact. Among gorillas, eye contact carries powerful meaning. A calm gaze may express reassurance. A long, fixed stare can become a warning. Young gorillas quickly learn when to look and when to look away. Respect is communicated without a single sound. Perhaps the most beautiful conversations happen during grooming. For hours, gorillas patiently clean each other's fur, removing leaves, tiny insects, loose hair. At first glance, it appears to be simple hygiene, but grooming serves a much greater purpose. It creates friendships, strengthens family bonds, resolves tension, and reinforces social harmony. Scientists often compare grooming to human conversation. We talk, gorillas groom. Both strengthen relationships, both reduce anxiety, both remind individuals that they belong. Young gorillas spend years learning these unwritten social rules: when to approach an adult, how to greet the silverback, how to comfort another family member, how to behave during conflict. No one teaches them through words. They learn by watching, by copying, by making mistakes, and by growing together. It is culture, passed from one generation to the next. In fact, different gorilla groups sometimes develop slightly different behaviors, different feeding habits, different movement patterns, even different social traditions. This surprises many scientists because culture was once believed to belong only to humans, but gorillas continue proving us wrong again and again. The deeper researchers look, the more similarities they discover, and perhaps that is exactly what makes them so extraordinary. They remind us that intelligence is not measured by speech alone. Sometimes it is found in patience, in empathy, in cooperation, in knowing exactly what your family needs, without anyone saying a single word. Yet despite all their intelligence, gorillas are not the most tool-using primates. That title belongs to another extraordinary species, a species that hunts together, plans ahead, uses weapons, teaches its children, and in many ways looks startlingly similar to ourselves. The chimpanzees. If gorillas represent the gentle strength of the forest, then chimpanzees represent something entirely different: curiosity, strategy, adaptation, and intelligence. Among all the animals on Earth, no species resembles humans more closely than chimpanzees. In fact, we share nearly 99% of our DNA with them. Think about that for a moment. Every city ever built, every language ever spoken, every invention, from the wheel to the smartphone, exists because of a tiny difference in our DNA. Less than 2%. That small genetic gap separates modern civilization from life in the African rainforest. It is one of biology's greatest mysteries. Chimpanzees live in forests stretching across Central and West Africa. Unlike gorillas, they rarely stay in one place for long. Their world is constantly moving, searching, exploring, learning. A chimpanzee community can contain more than 100 individuals, but unlike gorillas, they do not always travel together. Instead, they split into smaller groups throughout the day. Some search for fruit, others patrol the borders of their territory, some care for infants, others simply rest high above the forest floor. Then, as evening approaches, many reunite. This social system gives chimpanzees incredible flexibility, but it also creates something fascinating: politics. Chimpanzee society is surprisingly complex. Every individual has relationships, friends, rivals, allies, families. Trust is valuable, but so is influence. A dominant male does not become leader simply because he is the strongest. He must build alliances, maintain friendships, resolve conflicts, and earn the support of others. Sometimes, a physically weaker male becomes the leader simply because more chimpanzees trust him. Sound familiar? Scientists often compare chimpanzee communities to early human societies. Leadership depends on more than power. It depends on cooperation. Perhaps the most astonishing ability of chimpanzees is their use of tools. For many years, people believed humans were the only animals capable of making and using tools. Then, everything changed. Researchers watched wild chimpanzees carefully selecting sticks, removing leaves, shortening branches, and inserting them into termite mounds. When they pulled the sticks back out, they were covered with termites, a perfectly designed fishing tool. Other chimpanzees crack hard nuts using heavy stones. Some use leaves like natural sponges, soaking them in water before drinking. Others sharpen branches to hunt small animals hiding inside tree holes. Each tool is carefully chosen, carefully prepared, and often carefully taught to the next generation. Young chimpanzees spend years watching their mothers. They imitate every movement. Every mistake becomes a lesson. Every success, a skill for life. This is not instinct alone. It is learning, culture, knowledge passed from one generation to another. Different chimpanzee communities even develop different traditions. One group may use a specific tool. Another, living only a few kilometers away, may never use it at all. Scientists call this animal culture, something once believed to exist only in humans. But perhaps nothing reveals the intelligence of chimpanzees more than their emotions. They celebrate victories, comfort injured friends, protect orphans, share food, play games, laugh. Researchers have even observed chimpanzees embracing one another after frightening experiences. Much like humans, they seek reassurance, connection, belonging. But chimpanzees also possess another side, one that surprised scientists for decades. They can become remarkably aggressive. Neighboring communities sometimes organize coordinated territorial patrols. Groups of males silently move through the forest, watching, listening, searching for signs of rival chimpanzees. If they encounter a lone individual, they may attack together. These conflicts can last for years. Entire territories change hands. Scientists have compared some of these behaviors to the earliest forms of organized warfare. The discovery shocked the scientific world because it forced humanity to confront an uncomfortable question. If chimpanzees, our closest living relatives, can display both extraordinary compassion and organized violence, what does that reveal about ourselves? Perhaps intelligence alone does not determine kindness. Perhaps empathy, cooperation, and conflict have always existed side by side, long before human civilization, long before written history, long before the first city ever rose. Chimpanzees remind us that the roots of human behavior run far deeper than we once believed. But there is another great ape that chose an entirely different path. Instead of conflict, it built its society far away from the mountains of Africa, beyond the vast Indian Ocean. Another ancient rainforest hides one of Earth's most extraordinary primates. Not in large families, not in noisy communities, but almost completely alone. High above the forest floor, moving silently through towering trees, lives the orangutan. Its name comes from the Malay language, orang-hutan, literally meaning the person of the forest. Few names could describe an animal more perfectly, because watching an orangutan often feels less like observing wildlife and more like meeting a quiet, thoughtful neighbor. Unlike gorillas or chimpanzees, orangutans rarely live in permanent groups. Adult males usually spend most of their lives alone. Females remain with their young, sometimes for nearly a decade. It is one of the longest childhoods in the entire animal kingdom, second only to humans. Why? Because surviving in the rainforest canopy requires knowledge that cannot be learned quickly. Every day presents hundreds of decisions. Which fruit is ripe? Which tree is safe? Which branch can support your weight? Where will food be available next month? Where can you sleep tonight? The rainforest changes constantly, and an orangutan must remember it all. Researchers estimate that wild orangutans memorize the locations of hundreds of fruit trees and know exactly when different species begin producing fruit. Some even plan journeys days in advance, traveling slowly through the canopy toward trees that have not yet ripened, because they somehow know their food will soon be ready. This remarkable memory is one reason scientists consider orangutans among the most intelligent animals on Earth. But memory is only part of the story. Orangutans are remarkable problem solvers. They create tools from branches, use sticks to remove insects from tree bark, fashion leafy gloves to protect their hands from thorny plants, use broadleaves as umbrellas during tropical storms, and even place large leaves over their heads to reduce the heat of the midday sun. Every solution demonstrates creativity, planning, and an understanding of cause and effect. Perhaps even more astonishing, young orangutans spend nearly 8 years learning these skills from their mothers. Imagine teaching a child every day for almost a decade where to eat, how to climb, how to build a safe nest, how to recognize dangerous snakes, how to avoid poisonous plants, how to survive. Every evening before darkness falls, an orangutan builds a brand new nest high in the trees. Using fresh branches, vines, and leaves, it carefully weaves together a comfortable sleeping platform. Some even add pillows made from soft foliage. Others build roofs to stay dry during heavy rain. Tomorrow, they will build another and another, thousands of nests. Over the course of a lifetime, no architect teaches them, no blueprint exists. Only knowledge, passed from mother to child. Watching this quiet routine, it becomes impossible not to admire their patience. Unlike chimpanzees, orangutans rarely rush. They move deliberately, thoughtfully. Almost every action appears calculated. Some researchers describe them as the philosophers of the rainforest. Their eyes reveal an extraordinary calm, a deep awareness of everything happening around them. They do not waste energy. They do not seek unnecessary conflict. They simply observe, think, and adapt. But this peaceful way of life faces an enormous threat. Every year, vast areas of rainforest disappear. Ancient forests are cleared for agriculture, roads, mining, and expanding human settlements. For an orangutan, losing a forest is not simply losing a home. It is losing an entire library of memories, every fruit tree remembered, every safe nesting place, every familiar pathway through the canopy, gone. Many young orangutans become orphans before they are fully grown. Without their mothers, they often never learn the survival skills they need. For a species that depends on years of education, this can be devastating. Yet, despite everything, orangutans continue to adapt. They remind us that intelligence is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet, patient, thoughtful. The ability to solve tomorrow's problems before tomorrow even arrives. And perhaps that is one of the greatest forms of intelligence nature has ever created. But orangutans are only one branch of an extraordinary family. Across Africa, Asia, and South America, another incredible group of primates has mastered a completely different strategy for survival. Fast, agile, highly social, masters of the trees, the true acrobats of the rainforest, the monkeys. If the great apes are the giants of the primate world, then monkeys are its greatest survivors. They live in frozen mountains, burning deserts, dense tropical rainforests, vast grasslands, and even in the middle of modern cities, from the snow-covered forests of Japan to the endless Amazon rainforest, from the cliffs of Africa to the temples of Southeast Asia. Monkeys have conquered almost every environment on Earth. Today, there are more than 260 different species of monkeys. Each one has developed its own remarkable way of surviving. Some weigh less than 100 grams, small enough to fit inside a human hand. Others grow as large as medium-sized dogs. Some spend their entire lives high in the forest canopy, never touching the ground. Others rarely climb trees at all. Every species tells a different evolutionary story. Take the spider monkey. Its body seems almost designed for flight. Long arms, long legs, an incredibly flexible shoulder, and one extraordinary adaptation, a fully prehensile tail. Unlike the tails of most animals, a spider monkey's tail works almost like a fifth hand. It can support the monkey's entire body weight, swing from branches, grab fruit, even carry objects. Watching a spider monkey move through the rainforest is like watching an aerial acrobat. It barely seems to touch the trees. Instead, it flows through them. Then there are the howler monkeys. You may never see them, but you will certainly hear them. Their deep calls echo through the rainforest for nearly 5 kilometers. It is one of the loudest sounds produced by any land animal. To humans, it sounds almost prehistoric, a haunting roar rolling across the jungle. But for other howler monkeys, it is a message. This forest is already occupied. Without fighting, they defend enormous territories using only their voices. Another remarkable species is the capuchin monkey, small, curious, and astonishingly intelligent. Scientists often compare their problem-solving ability to those of chimpanzees. Capuchins use stones to crack open hard nuts, choose different tools for different tasks, wash dirty food before eating, and carefully observe one another, copying successful techniques. Young capuchins spend years learning from older individuals. Knowledge passes through generations, just like human culture in Africa. Another famous monkey dominates the open landscape, the baboon. Unlike rainforest species, baboons spend much of their lives on the ground. They travel in enormous troops, sometimes numbering over 200 individuals. Life inside a baboon troop is incredibly complex. Friendships, family bonds, competition, politics. Every day, alliances are formed, arguments begin, disagreements end. Mothers care for infants, youngsters wrestle, experienced adults watch for predators. Even among baboons, everyone has a role. Living together means survival. Monkeys also possess remarkable memories. Some species remember hundreds of food locations. Others recognize dozens of individual faces. Some can remember who helped them months earlier and who betrayed them. Researchers have discovered that monkeys often return favors. They cooperate with trusted companions and avoid individuals who have cheated them in the past. These are surprisingly sophisticated social decisions. Perhaps the most extraordinary thing about monkeys is their ability to adapt. When forests disappear, some species learn to live near humans. They steal fruit from markets, drink from fountains, cross busy roads, even open doors, and solve simple locks. Their intelligence allows them to survive where many other animals cannot. But adaptation has limits. Every year, millions of hectares of forest disappear. Roads divide habitats, cities expand, climate changes, food becomes harder to find. Even the most intelligent monkey cannot survive without a home. Yet despite every challenge, primates continue to demonstrate something extraordinary, whether it is a gorilla protecting its family, a chimpanzee crafting tools, a bonobo choosing peace, an orangutan planning tomorrow, or a monkey solving problems high above the forest floor. They all share one remarkable gift, a mind, curious, creative, always learning, and perhaps that is why scientists continue asking one fascinating question. What does the intelligence of primates reveal about the evolution of our own? Because the deeper we explore their minds, the more clearly we begin to understand the origins of ours. If the great apes are the giants of the primate world, then monkeys are its greatest survivors. They live in frozen mountains, burning deserts, dense tropical rainforests, vast grasslands, and even in the middle of modern cities, from the snow-covered forests of Japan to the endless Amazon rainforest, from the cliffs of Africa to the temples of Southeast Asia. Monkeys have conquered almost every environment on Earth. Today, there are more than 260 different species of monkeys. Each one has developed its own remarkable way of surviving. Some weigh less than 100 grams. small enough to fit inside a human hand. Others grow as large as medium-sized dogs. Some spend their entire lives high in the forest canopy, never touching the ground. Others rarely climb trees at all. Every species tells a different evolutionary story. Take the spider monkey. Its body seems almost designed for flight. Long arms, long legs, an incredibly flexible shoulder, and one extraordinary adaptation, a fully prehensile tail. Unlike the tails of most animals, a spider monkey's tail works almost like a fifth hand. It can support the monkey's entire body weight, swing from branches, grab fruit, even carry objects. Watching a spider monkey move through the rainforest is like watching an aerial acrobat. It barely seems to touch the trees. Instead, it flows through them. Then there are the howler monkeys. You may never see them, but you will certainly hear them. Their deep calls echo through the rainforest for nearly 5 kilometers. It is one of the loudest sounds produced by any land animal. To humans, it sounds almost prehistoric, a haunting roar rolling across the jungle. But for other howler monkeys, it is a message. This forest is already occupied. Without fighting, they defend enormous territories using only their voices. Another remarkable species is the capuchin monkey, small, curious, and astonishingly intelligent. Scientists often compare their problem-solving ability to those of chimpanzees. Capuchins use stones to crack open hard nuts, choose different tools for different tasks, wash dirty food before eating, and carefully observe one another, copying successful techniques. Young capuchins spend years learning from older individuals. Knowledge passes through generations, just like human culture. In Africa, another famous monkey dominates the open landscape, the baboon. Unlike rainforest species, baboons spend much of their lives on the ground. They travel in enormous troops, sometimes numbering over 200 individuals. Life inside a baboon troop is incredibly complex. Friendships, family bonds, competition, politics. Every day, alliances are formed, arguments begin, disagreements end. Mothers care for infants, youngsters wrestle. Experienced adults watch for predators. Even among baboons, everyone has a role. Living together means survival. Monkeys also possess remarkable memories. Some species remember hundreds of food locations. Others recognize dozens of individual faces. Some can remember who helped them months earlier and who betrayed them. Researchers have discovered that monkeys often return favors. They cooperate with trusted companions and avoid individuals who have cheated them in the past. These are surprisingly sophisticated social decisions. Perhaps the most extraordinary thing about monkeys is their ability to adapt. When forests disappear, some species learn to live near humans. They steal fruit from markets, drink from fountains, cross busy roads, even open doors, and solve simple locks. Their intelligence allows them to survive where many other animals cannot. But adaptation has limits. Every year, millions of hectares of forest disappear. Roads divide habitats, cities expand, climate changes, food becomes harder to find. Even the most intelligent monkey cannot survive without a home. Yet despite every challenge, primates continue to demonstrate something extraordinary, whether it is a gorilla protecting its family, a chimpanzee crafting tools, a bonobo choosing peace, an orangutan planning tomorrow, or a monkey solving problems high above the forest floor. They all share one remarkable gift, a mind, curious, creative, always learning, and perhaps that is why scientists continue asking one fascinating question. What does the intelligence of primates reveal about the evolution of our own? Because the deeper we explore their minds, the more clearly we begin to understand the origins of ours. For millions of years, primates survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, changing climates, powerful predators, disease, competition. They adapted again and again. They evolved, learned, endured. But today, they face a challenge unlike anything in their evolutionary history, a threat they cannot outrun, cannot outfight, cannot outsmart. Humans. Every minute, vast areas of rainforest disappear. Ancient trees that stood for hundreds of years fall within seconds. The sound of chainsaws replaces birdsong. Roads cut through forests that once stretched endlessly across continents. What was once a living kingdom becomes empty land. For us, it may look like development. For primates, it is the destruction of an entire world. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your home no longer exists. Your food is gone. Your family has become separated. The places you memorized since childhood have vanished. This is exactly what countless primates experience every single day. A gorilla family may suddenly find itself trapped between farms. An orangutan may spend weeks searching for fruit trees that no longer exist. A troop of monkeys may be forced to cross dangerous roads, where many never make it to the other side. The forest does not disappear all at once. It breaks apart into smaller, isolated islands of habitat. Scientists call this habitat fragmentation. At first, it may not seem catastrophic. The trees are still there. Some animals remain. But slowly, the consequences begin. Groups become separated. Young males cannot find new families. Genetic diversity declines. Food becomes scarce. Conflicts increase. Diseases spread more easily. A forest that once supported thousands of animals can suddenly support only hundreds. Then comes another danger, the illegal wildlife trade. Around the world, young primates are captured and sold as exotic pets. To obtain a single baby, hunters often kill the entire family protecting it. A mother gorilla, a chimpanzee, an orangutan, each one willing to risk everything for a child. Many do not survive. The infants that are taken lose far more than their freedom. They lose the years of learning only their families could provide. Without those lessons, many can never return to the wild. Then there is disease. Because humans and great apes are so closely related, many of the illnesses that affect us can also affect them. A common cold, influenza, respiratory infections, diseases that are mild for humans, can become deadly for wild gorillas and chimpanzees. That is why researchers entering protected forests wear masks, keep their distance, and follow strict health protocols. Sometimes, the greatest act of conservation is simply staying away. Climate change adds another layer of uncertainty. Rainfall patterns shift. Fruiting seasons become unpredictable. Long, dry periods affect forests that evolved under stable conditions. Animals must travel farther, work harder, consume more energy. Every small change creates another challenge. And yet, despite everything, there is still hope. Across Africa, Asia, and South America, thousands of people dedicate their lives to protecting primates. Wildlife rangers patrol forests day and night. Veterinarians rescue injured animals. Scientists study their behavior to better understand how to save them. Local communities plant new forests. Governments establish national parks. Children grow up learning that these remarkable animals are worth protecting. Some primate populations, once close to extinction, are slowly beginning to recover. It is proof that when humans choose to protect nature, nature often responds. Perhaps this is the greatest decision our species now faces. Will future generations know gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, and monkeys only from photographs? Or will they still hear their calls echoing through living forests? The answer depends on us, because for the first time in millions of years, the future of an entire branch of evolution rests in human hands. And perhaps saving primates is about more than saving animals. Perhaps it is about protecting the last living connection to our own ancient past. Before we leave these forests forever, there is one final question we must answer. What have primates taught us about ourselves? For millions of years, primates survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, changing climates, powerful predators, disease, competition. They adapted again and again. They evolved, learned, endured. But today, they face a challenge unlike anything in their evolutionary history, a threat they cannot outrun, cannot outfight, cannot outsmart. Humans. Every minute, vast areas of rainforest disappear. Ancient trees that stood for hundreds of years fall within seconds. The sound of chainsaws replaces birdsong. Roads cut through forests that once stretched endlessly across continents. What was once a living kingdom becomes empty land. For us, it may look like development. For primates, it is the destruction of an entire world. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your home no longer exists. Your food is gone. Your family has become separated. The places you memorized since childhood have vanished. This is exactly what countless primates experience every single day. A gorilla family may suddenly find itself trapped between farms. An orangutan may spend weeks searching for fruit trees that no longer exist. A troop of monkeys may be forced to cross dangerous roads where many never make it to the other side. The forest does not disappear all at once. It breaks apart into smaller, isolated islands of habitat. Scientists call this habitat fragmentation. At first, it may not seem catastrophic. The trees are still there. Some animals remain. But slowly, the consequences begin. Groups become separated. Young males cannot find new families. Genetic diversity declines. Food becomes scarce. Conflicts increase. Diseases spread more easily. A forest that once supported thousands of animals can suddenly support only hundreds. Then comes another danger, the illegal wildlife trade. Around the world, young primates are captured and sold as exotic pets. To obtain a single baby, hunters often kill the entire family protecting it. A mother gorilla, a chimpanzee, an orangutan, each one willing to risk everything for a child. Many do not survive. The infants that are taken lose far more than their freedom. They lose the years of learning only their families could provide. Without those lessons, many can never return to the wild. Then there is disease. Because humans and great apes are so closely related, many of the illnesses that affect us can also affect them. A common cold, influenza, respiratory infections, diseases that are mild for humans can become deadly for wild gorillas and chimpanzees. That is why researchers entering protected forests wear masks, keep their distance, and follow strict health protocols. Sometimes, the greatest act of conservation is simply staying away. Climate change adds another layer of uncertainty. Rainfall patterns shift. Fruiting seasons become unpredictable. Long, dry periods affect forests that evolved under stable conditions. Animals must travel farther, work harder, consume more energy. Every small change creates another challenge. And yet, despite everything, there is still hope. Across Africa, Asia, and South America, thousands of people dedicate their lives to protecting primates. Wildlife rangers patrol forests day and night. Veterinarians rescue injured animals. Scientists study their behavior to better understand how to save them. Local communities plant new forests. Governments establish national parks. Children grow up learning that these remarkable animals are worth protecting. Some primate populations, once close to extinction, are slowly beginning to recover. It is proof that when humans choose to protect nature, nature often responds. Perhaps This is the greatest decision our species now faces. Will future generations know gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, and monkeys only from photographs? Or will they still hear their calls echoing through living forests? The answer depends on us, because for the first time in millions of years, the future of an entire branch of evolution rests in human hands. And perhaps saving primates is about more than saving animals. Perhaps it is about protecting the last living connection to our own ancient past. Before we leave these forests forever, there is one final question we must answer. What have primates taught us about ourselves? After everything we have witnessed, the strength of the gorilla, the intelligence of the chimpanzee, the compassion of the bonobo, the wisdom of the orangutan, and the incredible adaptability of monkeys, one question remains. Why do they feel so familiar? Perhaps because they are. For centuries, humans believed we stood apart from nature, different, superior, alone. But every scientific discovery has brought us to a different conclusion. The deeper we look into the world of primates, the more we recognize ourselves. A mother gently protecting her child, a father risking everything for his family, friends helping one another after a difficult day, children learning through play, communities working together to survive, moments of kindness, moments of fear, moments of courage. These are not only human stories, they are stories shared across millions of years of evolution. Primates remind us that intelligence is not measured only by technology. It is measured by the ability to learn, to adapt, to cooperate, to care. Some of the greatest lessons in nature are not taught with words. They are taught through actions. A gorilla quietly comforting its frightened infant. A chimpanzee teaching its child how to use a simple tool. An orangutan patiently building another nest before sunset. A troop of monkeys sounding the alarm to protect one another. These moments may seem ordinary, yet together they reveal something extraordinary. Civilization did not begin with cities, it began with families, with trust, with communication, with knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Long before humans ever wrote their first story, primates were already writing theirs, not on paper, but in the forests, in their traditions, their relationships, their behavior, and perhaps that is why losing them would mean far more than losing another group of animals. It would mean losing living chapters of our own history. Every species that disappears takes with it millions of years of unique knowledge, behaviors we may never witness again, solutions evolution spent countless generations creating, entire culture that vanish forever. Imagine if humanity lost every book ever written, every language, every memory. That is what extinction truly means. Not simply the disappearance of a species, but the disappearance of an entire way of understanding the world. Perhaps that is why protecting primates matters so much. Not only for them, but for us. Because when we protect the forests, we are protecting the story of life itself. The story that eventually produced every human being alive today. The story that reminds us we are not separate from nature. We are one chapter in a book that has been written for more than 60 million years. And perhaps the greatest lesson primates can teach us is humility. They do not build skyscrapers. They do not launch rockets. They do not write books. Yet they know how to live together, raise their young, protect their families, adapt to changing worlds, and survive against extraordinary odds. Maybe intelligence is not about conquering nature. Maybe true intelligence is learning how to live within it. So the next time you see a gorilla looking quietly into the distance, a chimpanzee solving a problem, an orangutan gently holding her baby, or a monkey leaping effortlessly through the trees. Remember this: you are not looking at something completely different from yourself. You are looking at one of your oldest living relatives, a survivor of millions of years, a witness to Earth's greatest changes, a reminder of where we came from, and perhaps a guide to where we should go next, because the story of primates is not just their story, it is also ours. And so, our journey through the hidden kingdom of primates comes to an end. But perhaps the story itself has only just begun. For millions of years, these extraordinary creatures have lived among the forests. They have survived changing climates, powerful predators, ice ages, volcanoes, and countless challenges that shaped life on Earth. Long before the first human city, a mother gorilla was already protecting her child. A chimpanzee was already crafting simple tools. An orangutan was already teaching the next generation. A troop of monkeys was already working together to survive. Their world has always been far richer than we ever imagined. Perhaps that is why looking into the eyes of a great ape feels so different. For a brief moment, it is almost as if the forest is looking back at us, reminding us that we are not separate from nature. We are part of it. Every heartbeat, every emotion, every act of kindness, every struggle to protect family, every moment of curiosity, these are not uniquely human. They are threads woven through millions of years of shared evolution. The forests still echo with their voices. The mountains still belong to the gorillas. The rivers still guide the chimpanzees. The towering trees still shelter the orangutans. And the endless canopy still belongs to countless monkeys whose stories have yet to be told. But those forests are growing quieter. Every tree that falls takes away another piece of their world. Every habitat lost erases millions of years of evolution, and every species that disappears takes with it a story that can never be written again. The future of these remarkable animals will not be decided by nature alone. For the first time in their history, it will also be decided by us. Perhaps the greatest question is not whether primates can survive. Perhaps the real question is what kind of world do we choose to leave behind? A world where children know gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, and monkeys only from photographs, or a world where future generations can still hear their calls echo through living forests? The answer begins with every choice we make, because protecting nature is not only about saving wildlife, it is about protecting the incredible story of life itself, a story that began millions of years ago and continues with every forest that still stands. Thank you for joining us on this unforgettable journey into the secret kingdom of primates. If you enjoyed this documentary, support the channel by leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on notifications for more cinematic wildlife documentaries from around the world. And before you go, tell us in the comments which primate amazed you the most and why. Until next time, keep exploring, keep wondering, and never forget, the greatest mysteries on Earth are not always hidden beneath the ocean. Sometimes they are waiting quietly, deep inside the forest. Before humans built the first cities, before the first kings ruled kingdoms, before the pyramids rose from the desert, before history itself had a name, another civilization was already thriving, not beneath the oceans, not hidden underground, but deep inside the forests, where sunlight barely reaches the ground, a world almost untouched, where every sound carries meaning, every movement tells a story, and every family fights to survive another day. This is a kingdom that has existed for millions of years, a kingdom ruled not by crowns, but by intelligence, not by castles, but by ancient trees, not by written laws, but by instincts refined through evolution. Most people believe they already know these animals. They call them monkeys, gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, simple creatures, living simple lives. But what if almost everything we believe about them is wrong? What if I told you that somewhere inside these forests, there are animals capable of recognizing themselves in a mirror, animals that can plan for tomorrow, use tools, teach their children, remember old friends, mourn the dead, comfort those who are grieving, build lifelong relationships, protect their families at any cost, and even wage organized battles over territory? Would you believe they were human? Because they are not. They are primates, our closest living relatives. For decades, scientists believed that intelligence, language, culture, and emotions belonged almost exclusively to humans. But every expedition into the rainforest challenged that belief. One discovery after another forced us to rethink everything. Chimpanzees making tools, gorillas showing compassion, bonobos solving conflicts without violence, orangutans planning journeys days before they begin, capuchin monkeys teaching the next generation how to crack nuts using carefully selected stones. The deeper scientists looked, the more uncomfortable one question became. Where does humanity truly begin? And perhaps even more importantly, where does it end? Imagine standing alone in the middle of an African rainforest. The air is warm, heavy with moisture. Towering trees rise above you like ancient skyscrapers. The forest seems silent, but it isn't. Somewhere in the distance, a deep chest beat echoes through the trees. A silverback gorilla far above the canopy. A troop of monkeys leaps effortlessly from branch to branch. A baby chimpanzee laughs as it chases its older brother. An orangutan quietly builds a nest high above the forest floor, preparing for another night. Nothing here happens by accident. Every sound, every movement, every decision has been shaped by millions of years of evolution. To us, it may look like wilderness. To them, it is home. It is a kingdom, a civilization without cities, a society without governments, a world without written history, yet one that has survived far longer than any human empire. How did they become so intelligent? Why do they resemble us in ways that sometimes feel almost unsettling? Why does a mother gorilla cradle her infant almost exactly like a human mother? Why do chimpanzees kiss after arguments? Why do bonobos embrace to restore peace? Why do orangutans spend nearly a decade teaching a single child how to survive? And why do monkeys living thousands of kilometers apart develop different traditions, different techniques, and even different cultures? Perhaps the greatest mystery is not that they are becoming more like us. Perhaps the real mystery is that we are only now beginning to realize how much we have always been like them. For millions of years, the primates have watched the world change. They survived the rise and fall of ancient forests, massive climate shifts, powerful predators, ice ages, volcanoes, and eventually the arrival of a new species, humans. At first, we were simply another primate, walking through forests, searching for food, trying to survive. No cities, no technology, no civilization, only instinct, curiosity, and family. Everything that made us human began with lessons already written into the lives of our ancient relatives. Every child learning by watching, every family protecting its young, every leader defending the group, every generation passing knowledge to the next. The foundations of civilization were born long before civilization itself. Today, modern genetics tells us something astonishing. Humans share nearly 99% of their DNA with chimpanzees, almost 98% with gorillas. Think about that. Every language ever spoken, every masterpiece ever painted, every spacecraft launched into orbit, every city built by humanity emerged from a genetic difference of only a tiny fraction. Could something so small, long before humans walked the earth, before the first villages, before the pyramids, before kings, before empires, before history itself, our planet belonged to a completely different world, a world where enormous forests stretched across entire continents, where giant trees blocked the sunlight, where the air was warmer, the rain heavier, and life was beginning to recover from one of Earth's greatest disasters. 66 million years ago, a massive asteroid struck our planet. The impact changed everything. The dinosaurs that had ruled the Earth for more than 160 million years disappeared. Entire ecosystems collapsed. Darkness covered the skies. Temperatures dropped. Plants died. Animals vanished. For a moment, it seemed as though life itself might never recover, but nature has always possessed one extraordinary ability. It adapts. Slowly, new forests began to grow. Flowers spread across the land. Fruit-bearing trees became more common. Insects multiplied. Birds evolved. Small mammals, once forced to hide beneath the feet of giant dinosaurs, finally had their chance. Among those tiny survivors were the ancestors of every primate alive today. They were nothing like modern gorillas, nothing like chimpanzees, nothing like humans. Most were no larger than squirrels, light enough to move along the thinnest branches, fast enough to escape predators, curious enough to explore an entirely new world. The trees. Life in the forest canopy offered incredible opportunities. Food was everywhere. Fruit, flowers, leaves, seeds, nectar, insects. But living high above the ground demanded completely different abilities. Falling meant death. Missing a branch meant death. Misjudging distance meant death. Every movement had consequences, generation after generation. Natural selection rewarded those who adapted. Their fingers became longer, their hands became more flexible. Flat nails slowly replaced sharp claws. Sensitive fingertips allowed them to grip branches with incredible precision. Their eyes gradually shifted toward the front of the face. Instead of seeing only to the sides, they developed binocular vision. Depth perception changed everything. Now they could judge distances perfectly, leap safely, catch insects, move through the forest with astonishing confidence. But perhaps the greatest transformation happened where nobody could see it. Inside the skull, the brain. Every leap required calculation. Every meal required decisions. Every branch demanded balance. The rainforest became an endless puzzle. And solving puzzles made their brains larger, smarter, more adaptable. Curiosity became one of evolution's greatest tools. Those willing to explore often found more food, better shelter, safer routes. Curiosity saved lives. Millions of years passed. The continents drifted, mountains rose, volcanoes erupted, oceans changed direction, forests expanded, then disappeared, then returned once again. Each environmental change forced primates to evolve. Some species vanished forever, others adapted. Some developed longer arms, others stronger legs. Some became specialists, others became masters of survival. Slowly, the primate family tree grew larger. Scientists divide primates into two great branches. The first became the monkeys, masters of speed, agility, and life among the branches. The second became the great apes, larger, stronger, with even bigger brains. These extraordinary animals would eventually include gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, orangutans, and much later, humans. Although millions of years separate us today, our evolutionary journey began from remarkably similar origins. That is why primates fascinate scientists more than almost any other group of animals. When researchers study gorillas, they are not simply studying gorillas. When they observe chimpanzees, they are not simply watching chimpanzees. They are looking backward through time, searching for clues about ourselves. Modern DNA has confirmed something astonishing. Humans and chimpanzees share nearly 99% of their genetic material. Gorillas share almost 98%. Even orangutans, who separated from our evolutionary line millions of years earlier, still share around 97%. These numbers are difficult to imagine. The difference between building rockets, writing symphonies, creating medicine, exploring space, and living deep inside a rainforest is hidden within only a tiny fraction of our DNA. Perhaps the question should never have been, why are primates so similar to humans? Perhaps the real question is, why are humans so similar to primates? Because biologically, we are primates. The evidence surrounds us. 5 fingers, forward-facing eyes, expressive faces, long childhoods, strong family, hidden beneath the emerald canopy of Central Africa, where towering trees have stood for centuries, and thick mist blankets the mountains every morning, lives one of the most extraordinary creatures on Earth, the largest primate ever to walk our planet. The gorilla. For generations, people feared them. Stories described them as monsters. Movies turned them into terrifying beasts, powerful, violent, unstoppable. But nature tells a very different story. The truth is almost the complete opposite. Gorillas are not ruthless killers. They are not hunters. They are not bloodthirsty predators. They are peaceful vegetarians, gentle giants whose lives revolve around something surprisingly familiar: family. Deep inside the rainforest, every gorilla family functions almost like a small village. At its center stands one remarkable individual, the silverback. His broad shoulders, massive chest, and distinctive silver-colored fur make him impossible to mistake. An adult male can weigh over 220 kilograms. Standing upright, he can reach nearly 2 meters in height. His arms are incredibly powerful. Scientists estimate a silverback possesses several times the upper body strength of an average adult human. Yet, despite all that power, he rarely uses it. Because true leadership in the gorilla kingdom is not built on violence. It is built on responsibility. The silverback wakes before the others. He constantly scans the forest, listening, watching, smelling the air, searching for danger long before the rest of the family notices anything unusual. Every decision belongs to him: where the family travels, where they feed, where they sleep, when they move, when they rest. A single mistake could place everyone in danger. His family trusts him completely, not because they fear him, but because he has protected them countless times before. Unlike many mammals, gorilla families remain together for years, sometimes even decades. A typical troop consists of one dominant silverback, several adult females, young males, teenagers, and playful infants. Every member has a role. Every relationship matters. The babies spend their days climbing over fallen logs, rolling through soft vegetation, and chasing one another beneath the giant trees. Everything becomes a game: a stick, a leaf, a butterfly, even the enormous silverback himself. The young climb onto his back, pull his ears, tug at his thick fur, and remarkably, this giant responds with incredible patience. He watches quietly, sometimes gently nudging them away, other times simply allowing them to play, because he understands something that nature has taught for millions of years. Every game is practice for survival. The females form the emotional heart of the family. They raise the young together, protect one another, share feeding areas, comfort frightened infants, and constantly strengthen the bonds that keep the troop united. Scientists have observed gorilla mothers displaying behaviors almost identical to humans. They kiss their babies, stroke their heads, hold them close during storms, comfort them after frightening experiences. The similarities are astonishing, sometimes almost unsettling. Watching a mother gorilla cradle her sleeping infant, it becomes difficult to remember that we are looking at another species. The forest itself provides everything they need. Unlike predators, gorillas spend most of their day feeding leaves, wild celery, shoots, roots, tree bark, fruit. An adult gorilla may eat more than 30 kilograms of vegetation every single day. Because plants provide relatively little energy, they must spend many hours searching for food. Life moves slowly, peacefully, almost rhythmically. Morning feeding, midday rest, afternoon travel, evening nest building. Each day follows the same ancient pattern, repeated across countless generations. But beneath this peaceful routine, danger always exists, hidden within the forest. Another silverback may be watching, a younger male, stronger, ambitious, searching for a family of his own. Every dominant male knows that one day a challenger will arrive. When that moment comes, the entire future of the troop can change. The challenger announces himself long before anyone sees him. A deep, explosive chest beat echoes through the valley. The sound rolls across the rainforest like distant thunder. Birds suddenly take flight. Monkeys fall silent. The babies rush toward their mothers. The silverback slowly rises. Every muscle in his body tightens. He answers with his own chest beat. Louder, deeper, a warning. I am here. This family is protected. This forest has a king. Most confrontations end there. Neither male wants to risk serious injury. Both understand the cost of battle, broken bow. And so, our journey through the secret kingdom of primates comes to an end. But perhaps this was never just a story about gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, or monkeys. Perhaps it has always been a story about us. For millions of years, these remarkable animals have lived beneath the rainforest canopy. They have survived ice ages, volcanoes, mass extinctions, changing climates, powerful predators, and the endless challenges of evolution. Long before humans built the first cities, a gorilla mother was already protecting her child. A chimpanzee was already teaching the next generation. An orangutan was already building a home high in the trees. A troop of monkeys was already working together to survive. Their story began millions of years before ours, and somehow it is still being written today. Perhaps that is why looking into the eyes of a great ape feels so different. For a brief moment, it is almost impossible not to recognize something familiar. A quiet intelligence, a parent's love, a child's curiosity, a leader's responsibility, a friend's loyalty. The emotions we often believe make us uniquely human have much older roots than we ever imagined. The forests still whisper their stories. The mountains still belong to the gorillas. The rivers still guide the chimpanzees. The towering trees still shelter the orangutans. And the endless canopy still echoes with the voices of countless monkeys, living lives as complex, as fascinating, and as meaningful as any found in human history. Yet today, their greatest challenge is no longer nature, it is us. Every tree that falls takes away another piece of their world. Every forest destroyed erases millions of years of evolution. Every species lost takes with it knowledge that can never be recreated. Because extinction is not simply the disappearance of an animal. It is the disappearance of an entire way of understanding life. Perhaps protecting primates is not only about saving wildlife, Perhaps it is about protecting the last living connection to our own ancient past, a reminder of where we came from, and maybe a guide to where we should go. The story of primates teaches us something extraordinary. Strength is meaningless without compassion. Intelligence is meaningless without wisdom, and survival means very little if we forget the world that made us possible. The forests do not need us to rule them. They only ask that we allow them to exist, because every living primate is carrying a story that began over 60 million years ago, a story that survived everything Earth could throw at it. Now, its future depends on one species alone, ours. So before you leave, take one last look into the eyes of a gorilla, a chimpanzee, an orangutan, or even the smallest monkey. You are not simply looking at another animal, you are looking at one of your oldest living relatives, a survivor, a teacher, a witness to Earth's greatest history, and perhaps the closest reminder that humanity has never truly stood apart from nature. We have always been a part of it. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the secret kingdom of primates. If you enjoyed this documentary, support the channel by leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on notifications for more breathtaking wildlife documentaries in 8K Ultra Vision. And now we would love to hear from you. Which primate amazed you the most, and why? Tell us in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring, keep protecting, and never forget, the greatest civilization on Earth was never built by humans. It has been growing quietly beneath the rainforest canopy for millions of years. Did you know some of history's greatest artists were women, but their names were erased? For centuries, many talented women were forbidden from attending art schools or signing their own paintings. Some masterpieces were even credited to men instead. One of the most famous was Artemisia Gentileschi, whose breathtaking paintings proved she could rival the greatest masters of her time. Today, historians are rediscovering these forgotten artists and giving them the recognition they always deserved. History didn't lack great women artists, it simply forgot to remember them. Follow for more forgotten stories from history.